This is all part of the government's plan to shut down asylum hotels. The controversial hotels have cost taxpayers billions of pounds and become a focal point for anti-migrant protests. 2 military sites have been earmarked, one in Inverness and the other one in East Sussex. 900 men could be in the barracks by the end of the month if these plans go ahead. Currently, around 32,000 asylum seekers are living in hotels. The Home Office said that this government will close every asylum hotel. Work is well underway, with more suitable sites being brought forward to ease the pressure on communities and cut asylum costs. So what do our panel think? Bobby, do you think this is a good idea?
So if you look at the facts here, so I think about 2016, the Conservative government, they're the ones who first started this housing asylum seekers in hotels. And if you look at the numbers itself, from 2023, 56,000, it's gone close to being half to 32,000 this year. And I think whilst we have to acknowledge that migration is an issue that's high up the priority list for voters right now, and it does need to be addressed, I think our narrative and our language in public is something that really does concern me, because what we're doing is that with the military barracks, we're risking treating potentially vulnerable people like they're a logistics problem. They're not human beings. And I think, of course, we need to find solutions. And again, putting them, I think, in these distinct military barracks means they're isolated from our communities. If we want to make sure that if they get approval to be in Britain, then they feel welcomed and they feel that they've got something to contribute. But if you put them and stick them away, they automatically feel this country's not here to support me.
Do you think this is part of just hiding the problem, Joanna, sticking them in barracks and forgetting about it?
Not at all, actually. I think it's a wise thing to do. We've seen such an emotive subject, and we've seen people protesting outside hotels. This stops that. It takes it out of the direct community. They're still within a community, but in a compound that can be easily looked after. We've had all these issues this week about this chap who was released from prison. This gives the authorities more ability to contain people in an environment which I think for them is going to be an awful lot safer.
Well, if you're planning on containing them, then it is a big question mark, because if they can't even contain individuals in the prison system, I'm not sure about barracks. But let's go to the calls and find out what you think and how you feel about it. What's your gut reaction to this? Maria from Portsmouth, do you think barracks are a good place to house asylum seekers in this country?
Yes, it is. I lived on one, so I know exactly what they're like.
They've been spoken about as if they're quite run down. Is that true, Maria?
No, they're not. I lived in the married quarters because I was married to somebody who was in the forces. It's a great way of living when you're in that sort of situation. You've got all amenities there. You've got areas where you can all get together and hang out and do all that. If you're living in the actual married quarter houses, then you've got everything in there. They provide everything for you. If you're living where the single men would live, again, you've got everything there for you, and you've got a utility area where you can go and play like a pool table and things like that. So it's not as bad as what people are thinking. I lived on there with 2 young children.
Well, at the moment, it would just be 900 men. Now, I'm thinking 900 men in one, well, it'd be half that, wouldn't it? So 450 men in one complex. Is that starting to feel a little prison-like, Maria?
No, it's not, because our military personnel live like that. So no, because once the men are there, they get accommodation, they have utility areas, games rooms, pool tables. I know they don't drink because they're Muslim, but they have bar areas and things like that.
They might drink.
And then they can, well, they might do, but I'm just saying, if they're Muslim, their religion means they don't, but they might do, who knows. But there are pubs and that there. So there are areas they can all get together and relax. But the most important thing, once they're on there, then they can then get charities and all this, that and the other to get help and support to learn English or whatever else they might need.
In one area. Bobby, what's your thoughts?
Mary, my concern is, if the aim is for the people that get their asylum approved, we want them to integrate into British society, but how does them being separate from us completely allow that to happen? Because they may be there for 3, 4, 6 months, 9 months, however long it takes for the approval process.
Up to a year.
Up to a year. And in that stage, they might get made extremists, isolated, and they feel as if Britain's not for them. Actually, I think keeping them in a safe way in our community is a better way for them to actually be integrated.
What's your thoughts, Maria?
I just say about that, you've got to stop this, because the military camps aren't like that, and the military themselves will get involved and make sure these guys are okay. There's all sorts of military charities out there that will be hearing this and thinking how they can go on that camp and help and get them out and about, get the local community to come into the camp and sit with them and talk to them, make them feel comfortable and supported.
Maria, sorry, you were talking about the military being there. I was under the impression, and I might have this completely wrong, that the barracks would now be used to house asylum seekers rather than being used by the military. Is that not right? Would they be dual use?
What I'm saying is, because they're military camps, you have military charities and things like that that might want to come and help and support them.
I see.
And get them the help and support they need.
I
like
see.
SAFA.
I've got you, Maria. And you don't think the military would need to use them at any point? Because that's the other consideration, is actually if these have been used recently, then what's to stop them being needed in the next 6 months?
What you have to remember is the military always have a routine where they'll use a certain area for a certain period of time and move on.
Okay.
And
all right.
it's stuff that's been there for years where they've planned all this.
I did not know that. Maria, thank you very much. It's been an education speaking to you. Ian from North Ayrshire, what's your thoughts? What's your gut reaction when you think about housing asylum seekers in the barracks?
I think we should, good morning, and good morning to your panel. I think we should be looking after the homeless that we have in this country, all the children who are in substandard accommodation. We should be looking after the people, and then we should be coming out of this European Court of Human Rights. Because what we're doing here is we're putting the people, our nationals, in the second class to deal with foreigners. And I'm not against foreigners, but we can't manage to deal with everybody when we've got very little accommodation.
Ian, what do we do then? Because we have people coming over here, sometimes on small boats. They land on our shores. What do you propose we do?
Well, it might sound a bit callous, but when you think of the accommodation that they've had in France,
we set up a camp?
Let me finish, please.
No.
We are putting them in hotel rooms at £125 a day. Now, I can't think of anybody that's in a council house that's got such a good accommodation. A lot of the houses we have got dampness. Even a child died recently, and then everybody woke up and changed the law on renting accommodation.
Yeah, and we're still not great at it, Ian. You've got an absolutely fair point in terms of British nationals being housed in accommodation that is subpar. I suppose maybe the government is thinking that actually if we could put asylum seekers out of these hotels, save billions, put them in the barracks, it would free up cash to maybe build new properties, or even if the properties are so subpar, they should get the hotel rooms. I don't know, but I just wonder if people are going to land on the shore. The big question is, what do? We can't ship them back to somewhere like France. France will just ship them back here, and then you've got a boat bouncing back and forth. That doesn't seem logical. So we need to have some sort of plan, Ian, but I totally take your point. We have people in this country that aren't being looked after. Ian, thank you very much for your call. Claire from Worcestershire, what's your thoughts?
Hello, hi. I don't know when Maria last went into a military base and saw the accommodation, but the military unfortunately hasn't really kept in good fare with its housing stock. So I'm all for using these bases that have been left unlooked after by the local authorities and the MOD because they've been left to rot for years. And it seems like a fantastic idea in the short term as a first stopgap for putting people who come here as a way of assessing people. It's a way that they can be kept in a place where they can be looked after, fed, watered, housed, because there will be accommodation, there are utilities, there is places for them to be, and they're safe from the people who don't necessarily want them here. There are charities who can look after them, and they can be seen if they are the kind of people, I guess, those who don't like refugees being in this country, if we want to invite them into our country as a whole. But then we can invite them, they can then be seen to go out into the community, which I think is the best bet. This should not be the the place they stay.
This is the
Our
first
military
part.
housing stock is a mess. Even military people are living in terrible conditions.
Oh.
So I don't think this is the best thing for them to be in the long run.
Okay, Claire, so for the short term, you're not nodding along with that, Joanna?
Well, yeah, I had a godfather who was in the Marines, and he was down in Lympstone in Devon, and we used to stay with them quite a lot. And what you find is the care and the infrastructure is there, but the care of these properties is not great. But the reality is, look, they are empty, and these aren't ones that we're pushing regiments out of. These are empty sites. And why not utilise them? Everything's there. They've got green spaces, they've got playgrounds. It's a beginning, it's a start. It's a vote winner for whoever does it. But let's not forget the Tories have used these bases for ages. And Labour's having a bit of retribution here because one of them is a Tory community and the other one's a Lib Dem one. So if we notice that no Labour constituencies have got bases being used for this.
Well, the two barracks that Conservatives are already using, I think, are both in Kent. I don't know whether the constituency is Conservative or Labour. I'm not sure. But yes, they absolutely, the previous government have already started doing this. Claire, thank you very much for your call. Janice from Essex, what's your view?
Oh, hi, Storm. It's me again, the pest.
Never a pest.
Right, I think the barracks is brilliant. Wethersfield, I know Wethersfield. It's a very nice little country village. But what I think what we could do is, obviously, it's going to need a little bit of work on it. I think we need to make it as austere as possible. And then what we need to do is get people from the Home Office in there. They can be in porter cabins. They can start sorting the people out, whether they can stay or not. But I would want the gate shut.
So you'd want it locked in and as austere as... Janice, why would you want it to be as austere as possible?
So nobody else comes.
To use
Then
it as a deterrent?
Home and saying I'm living in luxury.
Okay, so we would use them as a deterrent. Bobby, what's your reaction?
Janice, again, there'll always be some asylum seekers that seek to exploit loopholes, but for the people that are genuinely coming here because they've got legitimate concerns about their home country and they're coming to UK because they see it as a safe haven, we are punishing them for that. So do you not see that as something that's unfair?
But can we just be clear? Are these illegal immigrants or are these asylum seekers? Because these are two very, very different things.
Well, they're asylum seekers until they're deemed not to be genuine, until their claim is not accepted. Once you come over here and you claim asylum, you're an asylum seeker and completely fine to be here until your asylum isn't granted.
But I think this distinction has got to be made a lot clearer because at the moment the argument is all about illegal immigrants.
But it can't be made, you can't determine someone illegal to be here until their claim has been processed. So in that meantime, we need somewhere to house them.
But so we're assuming, so if we have these austere, really tough conditions, we're assuming that every single asylum seeker is someone that's going to be illegal, someone that's here trying to cause trouble. But actually, probably the vast majority are decent people that are trying to get away and flee from something. So I feel like we're setting the wrong tone about what Britain's about.
But I suppose Janice is trying to stop people, I'm putting words in your mouth here, stop people from making that dangerous crossing where people sadly die. Janice, thank you very much for your call.